of our Lord Sri Aurobindo. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, remain firm through the darkness. The light is there and will conquer. With always our love and blessings, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo's Savitri, Book 3, The Book of the Divine Mother, Canto 4, The Vision and the Boon, page 379. Even lost in slumber, mute, inanimate, his very body answered to her power. The one he worshipped was within him now. Flame pure, ethereal tressed, a mighty face appeared, and lips moved by immortal words, lids wisdom's leaves drooped over rapture's arms. A marble monument of ponderings shone a forehead, sides cribbed and large like ocean's gaze. Towards heaven, two tranquil eyes of boundless thought looked into man's and saw the God to come. A shape was seen on threshold mind, a voice absolute and wise in the heart's chambers spoke. O Son of Strength, who climbest creation's peaks, no soul is thy companion in the light. Alone thou standest at the eternal doors. What thou hast won is thine, but ask no more. O Spirit, aspiring in an ignorant frame, O wise, arisen from the inconscious world, how shalt thou speak for men whose hearts are dumb, make purblind earth the soul's seer vision's home, or lighten the burden of the senseless globe? I am the mystery beyond reach of mind. I am the goal of the trivial of the suns. My fire and sweetness are the cause of life. But too immense my danger and my joy. Awake not the immeasurable descent. Speak not my secret name to hostile time. Man is too weak to bear the infinite's weight. Truth born too soon might break the imperfect earth. Leave the all-seeing power to hew its way. In thy single vast achievement, reign apart, helping the world with thy great lonely days. I ask thee not to merge thy heart of flame in the immobile's wide, uncaring bliss. Turn from the fruitless motion of the years, deserting the fierce labor of the worlds, aloof from beings lost in the alone. How shall thy mighty spirit brook repose, while death is still unconquered on the earth, and time a field of suffering and pain? Thy soul was born to share the laden force. Obey thy nature and fulfill thy fate. Accept the difficulty and godlike toil, for the slow-paced omniscient purpose live. The enigma's knot is tied in humankind, A lightning from the heights that think and plan, plowing the air of life with vanishing trails. Man, soul awake in an unconscious world, aspires in vain to change the cosmic dream. Arrived from some half luminous beyond, he is a stranger in the mindless vast, a traveler in his oft shifting home, amid the tread of many infinitudes. He has pitched a tent of life in desert space. Heaven's fixed regard beholds him from above, in the house of nature, a perturbing guest, a voyager twixt thought's inconstant shores, a hunter of unknown and beautiful powers, a nomad of the far mysterious light, in the wide ways, a little spark of God. Against his spirit, all is in dire league. A Titan influence stops his Godward gaze. Around him hungers the unpitying void. The eternal darkness seeks him with her hands. Inscrutable energies drive him and deceive. Immense, implacable deities oppose. Words of our Divine Mother, taken from the collective works of our Divine Mother, Chapter 14, Subtopic 56th Subtopic. Question: what is the attitude today of the average man? Does he not rise in anger and revolt directly he meets something that partakes of the genuinely divine? Does he not feel the divine means the destruction of his cherished possessions? For this, our Divine Mother says, this means very clearly that so long as you remain in your small individual egoism, you will never be ready to make the gesture, to take the plunge which will enable you to identify yourself with the divine. In this connection, I could tell you something. Long ago, there were people who came here because they thought that joining the ashram was sufficient to make one immortal, and they aspired much for immortality. Naturally, they were old people who did not see a very long road before them and desired to extend it indefinitely, for that is what men understand by immortality, an indefinite prolongation of what they are. So, to the first person who made this remark, I replied, I do not know if everyone can become immortal. Probably not. But even among those who have the capacity of become immortal, how many are ready to pay the price for it? Because the number of things which have to be left behind is so considerable that perhaps halfway they would say, no, the price is too much. Our Divine Mother says, I remember a painter with whom I had a talk about the possibility of immortality and who asked me what a new world would be like. I told him things would be, for instance, luminous in themselves, and there would no longer be this kind of reflected light which comes here upon earth from the sun. And as I was speaking, I saw his face becoming longer and more grave. Finally, he said, but then, how can one do painting without the shadow which brings out the light of things? I told him, says our Divine Mother, you have given exactly the key to the problem. Our Divine Mother says, there were many people, a very large number, who asked me what the new life would be like, and to whom I said there will be an interchange of forces, a circulating energy, the structure of the body will be quite different. All these ungainly organs will disappear and be replaced by psychological functions, and the necessity of eating, always eating, will disappear. Once again, I saw faces getting longer and longer. People said, oh, and all the good things we eat, and all that will go? Our Divine Mother says, these are small instances. There are many other things more important. The most important and the most difficult thing is to renounce one's ego. For to somebody who is not ready to renounce his ego, it's like dying, and dying much more than a physical death. For to him, the death of the ego is like a dissolution of the being. This is not correct, but it begins by giving this sort of impression. To be immortal, one must renounce all limitations and the ego of the greatest of limitations. Hence, if I am not immortal, what is the good of that? In same talk, someone had asked the Divine Mother how all those then present have happened to meet. For this, our Divine Mother has said, we have all met in previous lives. Otherwise, we won't have come together in this life. For this, again, the Divine Mother gives an expression and says, it can be said that it is chance, or that it is because we have always been together, and both are equally true. As this lady liked occultism, I told her also, we have met in a previous life. And that is true, isn't it? But it is a way of seeing things. Also, we all belong to the same family. This too is true, but not in the way in which human beings look at it. Our Divine Mother says, I also said, we have worked together through the ages for the victory of the Divine and His manifestation upon earth. This is quite evident, for the universe has been created for that, and therefore every part of the universe, whatever it be, works for it, knowingly or unknowingly, but works for it all the same, says our Divine Mother. Question: do you want to do yoga? To feel the presence of the divine? And you to realize the divine? And for that, one must perfect oneself. Question: sweet mother, I do not understand what yoga is. Is it in concentrating on you? For this, our Divine Mother says it's a good symbol. Anyway, happily, nobody has said that he or she desired yoga to obtain power. There are countries and people who know vaguely that there is something called yoga, and they begin it with the idea that they will become superior to others, will get a greater power than others, and will consequently be able to dominate others. This is the worst reason, the most selfish, that which brings the most harmful consequences. Others who are truly troubled, who have a very difficult life, who have worries and sorrows and many cares, say, oh, I shall find something that will give me peace, tranquility, and I shall be able to get a little rest. And they rush into yoga thinking they are going to be happy and satisfied. Unfortunately, it is not altogether like that. When you begin yoga, says our Divine Mother, when you begin doing integral yoga, for reasons of this kind, you are sure to meet great difficulties on the way. And then there is this great virtue in men's eyes: philanthropy, love of humanity. So many people say, I am going to do yoga to be able to serve humanity, make the unhappy happy, organize the world in the happiest way for everybody. I say this is not sufficient. Our Divine Mother says it is not sufficient. I do not say that it is bad in itself, although I have heard an old oculist say witly, it won't be very soon that there will be no more misery in the world because there are too many people who are happy to live on this misery. It was a witticism, but it is not altogether wrong. If there were no misery to soothe, the philanthropist would no longer have any reason for his existence. He is satisfied with himself. He has so strong an impression that he is not selfish. I knew such people who would be very unhappy if there were no more misery upon earth. What would they do if there were no longer any misery to relieve? What would be their activity? What their glorification? How would they be able to show people I am not selfish, that they are generous, full of kindness? Question: do you want the yoga, says the Divine Mother, for the sake of the divine? If so, then only it can be said that you have a call for the path. This is the first thing necessary, aspiration for the divine. Our Divine Mother says the first moment of aspiration is this: you have a kind of vague sensation that behind the universe there's something which is worth knowing, which is probably for you, you do not yet know it, the only thing worth living for, which can connect you with the truth. Something on which the universe depends but which does not depend upon the universe, something which still escapes your comprehension but which seems to you to be beyond all things. I have said here much more than the majority of people about the feel about the thing, but this is the beginning of the first aspiration to know that, not to live in this perpetual falsehood where things are so perverted and artificial. This would be something pleasant, to find something that is worth living for. The next thing you have to do is to tend this aspiration, to keep it always alert and awake and living. Instead of telling yourself once in a while, oh yes, I'm thinking of finding the divine, just when there is something unpleasant, when you are a little disgusted because you feel tired, indeed there are many flimsy reasons, all of a sudden you remember that there is such a thing as yoga, something like the divine to know who can get you out of this flatness of life, says our Divine Mother. And for that, what is required is concentration, concentration upon the divine with a view to an integral and absolute consecration to its will and purpose. Our Divine Mother says this is the second step. That is to say, you begin wanting to find and know the divine and live it. You must feel at the same time that the thing is so precious, so important, that your entire life is not sufficient for acquiring it. Then the first moment is a self giving. You tell yourself, I do not want any longer to belong to myself for the sake of my little personal satisfaction. I wish to belong to this marvelous thing which one must find, must know, must live, and for which I aspire. Our Divine Mother says, concentrate in the heart, enter into it, go within, deep as far as you can. Gather all the strings of your consciousness that are spread abroad is this: you have a kind of vague sensation that behind the universe there's something which is worth knowing, which is probably for you, you do not yet know it, the only thing worth living for, which can connect you with the truth. Something on which the universe depends but which does not depend upon the universe. Something which still escapes your comprehension but which seems to you to be beyond all things. I have said here much more than the majority of people about the feel about the thing, but this is the beginning of the first aspiration to know that, not to live in this perpetual falsehood where things are so perverted and artificial. This would be something pleasant, to find something that is worth living for. The next thing you have to do is to tend this aspiration, to keep it always alert and awake and living. Instead of telling yourself once in a while, oh yes, I'm thinking of finding the divine, just when there is something unpleasant, when you are a little disgusted because you feel tired, indeed there are many flimsy reasons, all of a sudden you remember that there is such a thing as yoga, something like the divine to know who can get you out of this flatness of life, says our Divine Mother. And for that, what is required is concentration, concentration upon the divine with a view to an integral and absolute consecration to its will and purpose. Our Divine Mother says this is the second step. That is to say, you begin wanting to find and know the divine and live it. You must feel at the same time that the thing is so precious, so important, that your entire life is not sufficient for acquiring it. Then the first movement is a self giving. You tell yourself, I do not want any longer to belong to myself for the sake of my little personal satisfaction. I wish to belong to this marvelous thing, which one must find, must know, must live, and for which I aspire. Our Divine Mother says, concentrate in the heart, enter into it, go within, deep as far as you can. Gather all the strings of your consciousness that are spread abroad, roll them up, and take a plunge and sink down. Naturally, when I speak of the heart, I do not mean the physical organ, the viscera, but the psychological or the psychic center of the being. Then our Divine Mother reads a question asked during her talk in 1929. What is one to do to prepare oneself for this yoga? Our Divine Mother says, I replied to the person who put this question to me, become conscious first of all. So the person tried to become conscious, and a few months later he came and told me, oh, what a nasty present you gave me. Formerly, in my relation with others, they all seemed to be so nice. I had a good will. They were so nice towards me. And now, since becoming conscious, I see all kinds of things in myself that are not quite pretty. And at the same time, I see in other things that are not at all beautiful. I answered her, quite possible. If you do not want trouble, it is better not to come out of your ignorance. The first step, therefore, is to find whether one wants to see and know the truth or to remain comfortably in one's ignorance, says our Divine Mother.
Asmabhyam Shivo Bhava, Asmabhyam Shivo Bhava. thy glory made manifest upon the earth. Give us the strength to reject falsehood and emerge in thy truth, pure and worthy of thy victory. Seigneur, nous aspirons à être tes vaillants guerriers, afin que ta gloire soit manifestée sur la terre. Donne-nous la force de rejeter le mensonge et de surgir dans ta vérité, pure